When I was younger, my parents worked a lot and always needed help watching over me and my brother. Most of the time, we would go to a babysitter and they would watch us, but one day they were unable to, so my mom called my grandpa. I was about 6 years old at the time and had never really spent much time with my grandpa because he had recently just come into our lives. My brother is 3 years older than me, and he too was nervous about the day. My mom dropped us off at his house early in the morning, and before we could walk inside, he told us to get in the car. He said, "I have a surprise for you, and it involves a little bit of a road trip." My brother and I had no idea what to expect. In about an hour's time, we pulled into the long driveway that led us to a barn with acres and acres of land. Since I had known my grandpa, I always knew he had a love of horses and had dreamt of someday owning a ranch. As we got out of the car, the aroma of livestock manure was very present, but in a couple minutes it had become very normal. A man greeted us at the doors of the large red barn and said how excited he was to take us on a trail ride. Me and my brother's faces had the biggest smiles on them and could not wait to ride our first horse. For the next 20 minutes, we learned how to groom and saddle our horses. Of course, I was quite small and needed help, but my grandpa was with me the whole time smiling. Looking back, I know how happy it must have made him to see his grandchildren loving horses the way he did. That day we spent 4 incredible hours grooming, saddling, riding, and enjoying a snack while being surrounded by gorgeous creatures. From that day on, I wanted to spend every moment I could on a horse. I have been riding for 12 years, and if it were not for my grandpa taking me to this barn, I may have never found my love and passion for horses. All of the best memories and happiest moments come from horses, and I owe that all to him. My grandpa was an exceptional man. He started out having a rough time and had struggles, but worked through them to become the man I knew. He is loving, caring, and selfless. He knew the right thing to say at the right time, and I cannot imagine this world or my life without him in it, but I know I will always have him in my heart. In the past week, anytime my parents called my phone, I expected to hear the worst. And on Monday, November 2nd, 2015, I got that call. The call I never wanted to receive but knew would eventually come. The call that would change my life and take someone away from me forever. My dad did not even have to say a word, and I knew what had happened. My grandpa had been holding on to life by a thin string, and it finally broke. My dad immediately started crying on the phone, saying, "Your grandpa loved you so much, and I know this will be hard, but we are going to get through it. He's in a better place now." I was mute and still. My dad continued to go on and on about my grandpa's passing, but I could not say a thing. I loved my grandpa greatly, and I looked up to him in so many ways, but I was not crying. All these emotions are running through me, and the only voice I hear is his. I can hear my grandpa telling me that it is okay, that I'm not crying. He says, "You are my granddaughter, and therefore you are strong. I'm happy you are not crying, because if you cry, I will cry, and this is something to celebrate." Such a strange thing to say, that we should celebrate a death. Immediately, I think of the Mexican culture. They celebrate the dead every day on Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. And instead of mourning their family, they celebrate them and remember them. So for now, I will do as they and grant my grandpa's wishes and celebrate them in this time of mourning. I tell my family of my experience with my grandpa, and they agree that he should be celebrated. My mom lets her emotions be open and free, so anytime we talk about him, she cries. But through the crying, she lets me know how much he meant to her. My mom says, "I only first met Bob after your dad and I had been married for a couple years, but that did not stop him from immediately feeling like family." She goes on to say that once my brother and I were born, he became an even better grandpa. He quit smoking for us and made sure his home was welcoming and a place we wanted to spend. My mom says he was not always there for my dad, but made up for that by being there for his grandchildren. My dad is an only child, so my grandpa's only grandchildren are me and my brother. My dad tells us that grandpa was not always around for him growing up, and it forced him to mature quickly. By the time my dad was 15, he had 2 jobs and was paying the bills to support he and his mother. Around that time, my grandpa had been going through depression and attempted to kill himself. My dad always said that he took his failed attempt as a second chance at life and as a second chance at being a better father and better man. My dad says, "I never thought he would become such an important role in my life and that I would cry over his death. If you would have told me 30 years ago that I would come to care about this man as much as I do, I would have called you crazy." Listening to my dad speak about my grandpa in that light makes me realize how lucky I am to have known him my entire life. My dad did not receive that privilege, and his time was cut short with his dad. But I know that he would have not have traded that for a world. In my grandpa's final moments, he was physically weak and could not speak. Looking at him in this state made me overly emotional because I just wanted him to be at peace. As he watched the tears stream down my face, he took my hand and smiled. I smiled back and I said, "I love you." And through the coughing, he said it back. He always had the most perfect penmanship, and even in his weak state, he was able to write his messages in his typical handwriting. The first message he wrote said, "I remember you taking me grocery shopping." While it doesn't seem very heartfelt, it was. It showed me he was still mentally there and that he remembered my favorite memory of us. I never thought that a once-a-week shopping trip would have such a powerful impact with me or him. His note showed me that he loved me too and appreciated them as much as I did. I did not expect to become so emotional over a simple note, but I did and still have the note that I plan to keep for a very long time.